George Stephanopoulos was the only one out of the 5 interviews with the president who even mentioned ACORN. And listen to this.
How about the funding for ACORN?
You know, frankly, it's not really something I've followed closely. I didn't even know that ACORN was getting a whole lot of federal money.
Well, the Senate and the House have voted to cut it off.
You know, what I know is that what I saw on that video was certainly inappropriate and deserves to be.
So you're not committing to cut off the federal funding?
George, this is not the biggest issue facing the country. It's not something I'm paying a lot of attention to.
Where's that quote that I had? Does anybody have it? Do we have that as a full screen yet, the quote on ACORN? I love that. Oh, it's coming up later? Yeah, okay. You got that one doesn't work. What he just said yesterday doesn't work. But there was no pushback from Stephanopoulos, who, by the way, has a daily conference call with the White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel. He doesn't mention ACORN's massive tax fraud, the defrauding of the United States of America. That's kind of big. Offering to help bring illegals across the border who are 13 are going to be sold into slavery for sex. That's kind of big. 6 different cities. That's kind of big. With taxpayer-funded organizations, which is pretty big there, too. Isn't this the organization that promised he would have, that they would have a role setting his agenda at the table in the White House?
Before I even get inaugurated, during the transition, we're going to be calling all of you in to help us shape the agenda. We're going to be having meetings all across the country with community organizations so that you have input into the agenda for the next presidency of the United States of America.
I think there should have been a follow-up question, George. I'm not a journalist. You are. And they wonder why we're marching on Washington. Hello? By the way, he's also tied closely to SEIU, which ACORN founder Wade Rathke is also closely tied to.
I'll spend my entire adult life working with SEIU. I'm not a newcomer to this. I didn't just suddenly discover SEIU.
No, hey, remember that. He's tied right there. He'll spend his whole life with SEIU. Just remember that. Then there's AmeriCorps. Or is it AmeriCorps? I'm not really sure what the president is describing here.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
Really? Wow. Why do we need that? I mean, I've asked that question on the show before, and we've never really gotten an answer to it. But maybe somebody else will ask that question. I'm counting on that mainstream media. Yeah, to ask those questions. By the way, here's the quote that I was looking for. This is from Sam Graham Felsenbrand, President Obama's his campaign blog. He said this about ACORN in November 2007. You ready? I've been fighting alongside ACORN on issues you care about my entire career. Even before I was an elected official. When I ran Project Vote voter registration drive in Illinois, ACORN was smack dab in the middle of it. And we appreciate your work. Yeah, he's not really paying attention because he didn't have any close ties there, I'm sure. Look, why am I asking these questions? Is it a hidden agenda? Or is the agenda something you can actually get behind yourself? We need to know what the agenda is and who's actually behind it. We'll finish this up here in just a second, then talk to some guests. Coming up next.